everyone, it's 2024 and Tina Zaccardi Bakes is finally back. I'm hoping to bring you this year some nice, easy, approachable baking recipes. And we're going to start with a really simple, fun, tasty recipe today. We are making my chocolate-dipped orange biscotti. There's just something about that combination of orange and chocolate that I just really love. And this is the time of the year where citrus is the thing to use. It is citrus season. You get some great oranges and these beautiful lemons and even some blood oranges. They are just absolutely fantastic. But it's really important, that being said, to bake seasonally or even cook seasonally, because when you bake or cook with things that are in season, they always have way more flavor and are so much fresher than getting things out of season. But today we are going to be working with some beautiful oranges. And the first thing I like to do when I'm working with any citrus fruit and granulated sugar is we're going to mix those two together. And what the sugar does is it brings out those essential oils and so much more flavor from the zest than just throwing it in at any point in the recipe. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out some sugar. And I like to use a scale. If you've watched me before, you know that my favorite way, and actually the best way to measure your ingredients, is with a scale. And we have one on MARKET.live. It's not very expensive, so if you guys don't have a scale and you want to get a scale, we've got one for you. In fact, it's up on the screen right now. So I'm going to weigh out my sugar. And you notice I'm not dirtying any scoops or spoons or bowls. I'm just going to measure it right into here. And I've got my scale set at 0. And I'm going to get my sugar in there. And there, we're just about there. And if you want the recipe, we're going to show it on the screen every couple of minutes with the ingredients and the steps to it. But you can also find it on my website, tinazaccardi.com. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, or even if you do, I've made a little bit of a change. I am no longer the Italian cookie. I am Tina Zaccardi Bakes on Instagram. So if you need to find me, that's where I am. So from here, I'm going to just move our scale a little bit. And we've got our sugar in here. I'm going to zest this orange. And we need about 2 teaspoons. And I love this microplane. It's great. About 2 teaspoons of the zest. And we want to keep moving that orange. You can see that I'm kind of turning it as I zest, because we want the outer orange part. We don't want the lighter, almost white pith of the orange, because that's where there's a lot of bitterness. And we just really want to get the flavor from the orange part, the one that's the skin right on the outside. And that's almost about 2 teaspoons. Don't have to exactly measure, but if you like a little more orange flavor, you can always add a little bit more. And I'm going to just get it right in here. That beautiful orange zest. And from here, you can either put it on your mixer and use your paddle attachment, or you can take those. When you're adding, your butter has been brought to room temperature. But if you were to add very cold eggs to this mixture, it's going to curdle and your butter is going to kind of clump up. And you've just spent all this time mixing it and getting it really nice and fluffy and cream with your sugar. The last thing you want to do is for it to start to seize up. I always make sure you take your eggs out and bring them to room temperature. Break one in the bowl. And the reason I do that is because I want to make sure that I don't get any shells into my mixture. If I were to crack it right in here, there's a good chance that there's going to be an eggshell in there. All right, so we've got the butter that looks really good, the butter and the sugar and the orange. And I can just smell that orange. I wish you were here to smell it. It smells so good. So I'm going to add the first egg, and I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon maybe of vanilla. And I'm using vanilla bean paste. You can do a 1-to-1 substitution if you don't have vanilla bean paste. You can use just regular vanilla extract. And we are going to put this back on medium. And we are going to keep going and mixing until the first egg is thoroughly incorporated. And we need to scrape our sides we always want to make sure that we scrape our sides and that everything is incorporated and that nothing sticks to the bottom of the bowl. It may be 2024, but it's this, we're baking the same way we did in 2023. All the same rules still apply. All right. I'm gonna crack my other egg. Go. You see this, but the butter and the egg is really coming together. It's not separating because one mixture is cold and the other one is room temperature. And we're going to add our last egg. And we're going to just mix it until it's combined. So while it's going, we're going to measure out our flour. And so we need our scale again. And I've got a bowl here. That looks good. I'm using just regular all-purpose flour. No cake flour, no bread flour, just regular all-purpose flour. And we're going to measure 200 grams. And again, right into this bowl. And to this, we are going to add our baking powder and our salt. And we're going to whisk it together before we throw it in with the butter. Because we want to make sure that the leavening agent is totally incorporated with our flour. We don't want it, little pockets of it, because if it were to get stuck in one spot in your batter and you go to bite into it, it's not very pleasant. And we're going to add a teaspoon of baking powder. And a quarter of a teaspoon.
Liz says she loves your show.
Hi, Liz. How are you? Where are you calling from or watching from? So I've used my measuring spoons to measure my baking powder and my baking and my salt. But what I like to do is we have some great measuring spoons on MARKET.live, and you can see here I have a little glass jar full of measuring spoons, and I love to have multiples of the same size because when I use them, sometimes I'm making a bunch of different recipes in one day, and I don't want to have to rewash and just throw it in the dishwasher. So it's nice I have a whole bunch of sets of different measuring spoons, so that I have a couple of tablespoons, a couple of teaspoons, and it just works for me. So we're going to take this and we're going to whisk this all together to make sure that our baking powder is totally combined with our flour. The same thing with the salt.
Mary says she loves her measuring spoons. They save her, LOL.
Right? I love measuring spoons too, all different kinds, right? So we're going to take this, just give it one last scrape. Make sure we've got everything incorporated. And we're just going to take our flour mixture and just dump it right in. Couldn't be easier. And now we're going to just mix on low until the flour is totally incorporated, just till we don't see any more flour. Even if there's a little bit of flour left, that's fine. We can take it off the mixer and use our spatula to finish it off. We don't want to over mix once we add the flour. We don't want to develop any gluten. We don't want tough cookies. So this looks pretty good. So I'm going to show you what it looks like.
Cassie says, thank you so much for the recipe.
Oh, you're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. So here we have our batter or cookie dough, whatever you want to call it. You can just take whatever's on this, the powder attachment. Get rid of that. And you can see there's just maybe a little bit of flour on the sides, and we're little batter's getting in the way. What we can do is we can just take our spatula and just give it a few turns and incorporate the rest of that. And there we have it. Simple enough, right? Not too different than most cookie doughs. We cream our butter and sugar, we put our eggs in, then our flour, our leavener, and our salt. So from here, we are going to put this on a sheet pan in 2 10 by 2 inch logs. So what I've done, and it's sometimes really hard to put it out and judge how big something is. So what I like to do is I like to take my parchment paper, and if you can see, I already have a rectangle drawn on here. I'm gonna turn it over and show you. You can see it right there. It's a little hard to see. I'm gonna draw another one. So we're gonna have 2 10 by 2 inch logs, and we're gonna leave about 4 inches in the middle. And this is it's a great guide. I love doing things like this because it just helps you make them more accurate. Your cookies will be more even when they bake. And it's just so simple to do. So then we have our 2 guides for our cookies. I know they're a little hard to see on camera. I don't know if I can show you this way. And then we're going to take the side that we've used the pencil on and put it down because we don't want the cookies touching that side. So I've got my tray right here, and I've got my batter, and And I've kind of weighed this out before, and it's about a little more than maybe 500, so half would be about 250 grams. And I'm just gonna grab a quick bowl in here, just so that both sides are even. That's why the scale is so great to have. I'm gonna measure out about 250. Okay, there we go. And I like to take a smaller spatula because it's just easier. And we're going to kind of fill in our guide with our dough. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here. There we go. And then we're going to finish this up and kind of clean it up and make it more even with this offset spatula. There we go. I have a little bit left in here. And here we go. Okay. And then we're going to just kind of spread it out and get it as even as we can. And we have those lines that work as a guide, so it's kind of easy to get it to the right size. I'm just gonna kind of spread it even on the top. And really, do the best you can. You don't have to rush through this. Take your time. Get it nice and even. Your cookies will be much more even and baked evenly if you get this nice and even. Just kind of go back and forth with your spatula. And there we go. And that's what's going to look like. And then you're going to take the other half and do it on the other side. From here, I like to put the whole tray with the cookie dough on it in the freezer for 10 minutes. And what that does is it firms it up kind of really nice, and that you won't get as much of a spread, and you'll get your biscotti kind of nice and high. You don't want them too thin. You want them nice and high. So take this in 10 minutes in the freezer. From the freezer, you're going to bake in a 350-degree oven between 20 and 25 minutes until they're kind of a nice, light golden brown, and they're set on top, and you can feel that they're not kind of squishy anymore. And at that point, you're going to take them out of the oven, and I'm going to show you what they look like. And this is what they look like when they're baked, right here. Okay, that I baked off a little earlier today. Now we're going to do our slicing. So biscotti is twice baked. So we baked it once. We're going to slice our cookies, and then we're going to bake them again. So I'll show you. Actually, we need our knife, and I'm going to show you how I like to slice them on a board. And I like to use a straight edge knife. Some people like to use a serrated edge knife. It's all personal preference, and I like to cut them a little on the diagonal. I think they look prettier that way. We're just gonna cut this first one off. And I like to do about, maybe a little more than a half an inch. We're just gonna cut this all the way. Now, if you like longer biscotti, you would want a wider log. So what you can do is maybe make it 8 or 9 inches by maybe 2.5, and they'll spread out a little more and you'll have them long. But I like the size of these. They're not too big, they're not too small, they're pretty much just right. So after you've gotten all these cut, and I kind of like, again, the straight edge knife, because the serrated edge, for some reason, I feel like there's a lot of crumbs with it and they tend to kind of break pieces off the cookie. And I like to be nice and even and smooth. So there we go. We pretty much cut the whole thing. From here, we're going to take them. And we're going to put them back on the pan that we used to bake them. I'm going to put them cut side up, just like this. Do the whole thing. And both logs cut up should fit on this tray. So this will take about half the tray, and then you'll have your other one. And as you can see them here, what they look like. Okay, so from here, after you take them out the first time, you're going to reduce your oven temperature to about 325 degrees. You're going to bake them for about 8 to 10 minutes on this side. Then you're going to flip them over, put them back in, and bake them till they're just kind of getting golden brown. When you take them out, they might not be totally crisp, and if they are, it's probably you went too far. What I like to do is, once they're done, and I've done a second bake, I like to take them out and take them off the pan and put them on a rack to cool completely. And having the air circulate around them will help them to crisp up. If they're sitting on the pan, they might not crisp up, which is why I love my metal rack, and MARKET.live has a metal rack if you don't have one. They're great to have. They're great for cookies, they're great for cakes, they're just great. Just a great product to have, especially when you're baking. You definitely need a wire rack. So these have cooled, and now we're going to get to the fun part. We're going to dip them in some chocolate. And I like to use semi-sweet chocolate. If you like milk chocolate, you can use milk chocolate. And I find that the best way to melt chocolate is over some simmering water. It's a more gentle heat than putting them in the microwave or doing it over direct heat. And you can see that we've got a little bubbling going on and a little bit simmering. And I've got my bowl with my chocolate in, and we're going to put it right there on top of the water bath. And that's going to be a nice gentle heat, and they're going to start to melt. In fact, they've already started to melt because that water was already warm. Just going to make a little room here right now. So I've got some, again, that I've already baked. You notice some of them have some hazelnuts in. And this is a great base recipe that you can customize. If you don't like orange, leave the zest out and add some extra vanilla. You can also add nuts to this. You can also add chunks of chocolate to it. So it's a really great customizable recipe. So I did some plain, but I also did some with vanilla and hazelnut. So you can do that too. So what I did was I took out, after I separated the batter in half, I put the hazelnuts in one and left the other one plain. So again, great customizable recipe. So our chocolate's really melting. Can we all see that?
Looking good, looking good.
Looking good, right? Nothing like melted chocolate. Great for dipping. I like to dip pretzels and marshmallows, strawberries. Well, this is going to just take no time to melt. So after it's melted, I find that the best way to dip if you're gonna dip them the long way, is to get a jar or a glass that's very tall and slim, because it's gonna be so much easier to dip these cookies. And we are just about there. There's still just a few lumps of chocolate that we're going to get out. And stirring definitely helps to speed up the melting process. In fact, I think we are pretty much there. Yeah. We're going to take this off the heat, turn this off. I'm just going to push it right out of the way. So I've got my glass, my tall, skinny glass. Just make sure that you've got a little room around the edge for the biscotti to fit in, and this is just perfect. I know it's hard to see. So we're going to take the chocolate and we're going to pour it into the glass. Right into the glass. Oh, a glass full of chocolate. Doesn't get better than that. So I've got some that I've already dipped. And what I've done is I've put a piece of parchment paper on a baking tray, and that's the best way to do it. I've dipped these and I put them in the fridge to set up. As you can see, they peel right off perfectly. Look at that. Look at that. That's one that I already did, but we're going to dip some now. So I'm going to take the biscotti and I'm going to dip it about halfway. And you can see how this glass makes it so easy. And make sure that you shake off the excess chocolate so that it's not sitting in a pool. Just makes them look pretty. And you can leave them plain, or you can sprinkle them with chopped nuts, or maybe some candied orange in the case, because these are orange, and we're just going to set them right there. I could do another one. Again, this glass makes it so easy. And just remember to shake off the excess. And then after I dip these, I'm going to put these back in the fridge for about 15 to 20 minutes until they set up and they're no longer tacky. And there are our chocolate dipped orange biscotti. I hope you guys give these a try. It's a really easy recipe. Actually, it's something you can do with the kids that's really fun. And just get creative. You know, orange is great. You can also flavor them with lemon and maybe some pistachios and dip those in white chocolate. That would be just absolutely amazing. But I hope you guys had a great time today. I know I did. And I will see you back next Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a